Your boy Dustin from the Flying Chariots, the Rise podcast, and today, oh shit, you won't believe it, I got Josh Caires here, and this guy is the shit, man. He's a paranormal investigator, and he's all traits of the paranormal, and he's kind of like Art Bell's understudy. So, no, this is really awesome, man. He's a fan of mine, and I'm very excited to get to know him more. And thank you, Josh, so much for coming onto the show. And you tell everybody where you grew up and how you fell in the field of the paranormal.
Yes, absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here today, and I'm looking forward so much to coming on this show. I've heard so many good things about it from all the listeners and from you, and of course other people that have been on the show, such as different colleagues and stuff like that. So basically, I originally got my start in the supernatural, much like any kid in 1987, 88, when I was like 2, 3 years old. I was immediately like drawn to basically unsolved mysteries with Robert Stack. I mean, that
Oh, I love
really
that.
paved the way for so many of us because it was one of the first television shows to dive into the paranormal. It would cover UFO cases, it would cover ghosts and cryptids, and I was really interested in the way Robert Stack always delivered on that show. And it was a episode on there called The Haunting of the General Wayne Inn, which is right outside my backyard of Philadelphia, named
Oh,
after my possible ancestor, Major General Anthony Wayne, who the inn is named after. And it was about this Jewish, obviously, this place where basically supposed to be Hessian soldiers. People would see Hessian soldiers in the building, and the place, obviously, famous dignitaries like George Washington stayed there, Marquis de Lafayette,
oh,
Edgar Allan,
cool.
Edgar Allan Poe, and Franklin sort of mailed there. So it's got a lot of history to it, and people
Yeah.
report seeing Hessian soldiers in the basement and different areas. So that episode really fascinated me, and I immediately just started, diving into the paranormal early, 4 or 5 years old. And then, of course, not only besides watching that episode, but there was another show out there that was really fascinating, In Search of by Leonard Nimoy.
Yes, that's one of
Everyone
my favorites.
remember,
Yes.
and I actually am
Hmm.
a friend of Adam Nimoy, Leonard's son, who's basically a spitting image of him. And really, In Search of was even before Unsolved Mysteries. I think it was around 78, even before we were thought of. And it was kind of even the first real television show that dealt with the paranormal besides Unsolved Mysteries. So those two
Nice.
shows really captivated me. And then as we got into the 1990s, I remember going to recess as a kid and looking up in the sky. I was always interested in seeing flying saucers in the sky. And I remember one time I saw one with like, cigar-shaped style UFO with triangular lights in the sky, literally like, looking up in recess. And I remember as a
Huh,
5-year-old kid, it really shaped my beliefs. And
for
then
sure.
in the 90s, I started diving into like books by Hans Holzer, and everyone knows Dr. Holzer as like the OG original like ghost hunter. Basically, he was before everybody else, and I remember picking up every book of his, with his legendary investigations with his mediums, Sybil Leek and Ethel Myers. And Dr. Holzer's books became the inspiration for the Ghostbusters,
Oh,
television
cool.
show and the
Yeah.
franchise that we all know with Harold
And I
Ramis.
love that too, man. I used to deck
Right.
myself out like a Ghostbuster every day. I think I went to like school with my Ghostbuster pajamas because I just couldn't like
I was
take
like
it.
that too. I was the Ghostbusters. So we were both Ghostbusters kids growing up.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
And I think for me, like reading all the books on like by Dr. Holzer, he really helped pave the way for so many of us in the field. And of course, I know Alexandria, his daughter. So basically, as we got in the 90s, I remember reading, also diving into books of UFOs. And some of the books I started reading in the early 90s was Communion by Whitley Strieber.
Oh, that's another good one.
And Whitley obviously had a UFO experience, and I've been a longtime friend of his. I'll be happy to connect him with you in the future.
Oh, that'd be
And
great.
Whitley, of course, wrote a book, Communion, Hunger, Wolfen, and I think some of his books also became the basis for Alien Hunter, like the movie and franchise series that we know today. And Whitley's UFO experiences are very well documented and known, and Communion really opened up my eyes. And then around the 90s, I also heard this lady on this show. I remember watching The Other Side on NBC, and there was a lady on there by the name of Linda Moulton Howe. And
Nice.
Linda,
I love
and
her. I have a crush on her.
Linda's amazing. She is an encyclopedia of knowledge.
She is.
You
My
know,
God.
she when it comes to crop circles and cattle mutilation, she's a good
Yes.
friend, and I've known her for years. And
Cool.
besides watching her on the other side on NBC, I remember one time flipping the AM dial one night and just seeing like different, trying to find a good like AM radio station. I came across this, this Dreamland and Coast to Coast with Art Bell, and I remember hearing Linda
Oh
on the
yeah.
show giving her crop circle cattle
Mm.
mutilation reports. That was something I was just drawn by this voice, and all of a sudden it opened up a whole world to me, and I became a listener arts in like 93, 94 when he was starting to really get go up with like 500 radio stations and millions of listeners. He just started reaching his peak in the 90s, and his first show was Area 2000. That's where I heard him
Mm.
first on, and that's where I got to know kind of got started getting to know Linda. So
Oh, that's
arts
cool.
interviews with like different Area 51 people and
Hmm.
Madman Markham on time travel, and Kevin Randall and Linda Moulton Howe and Richard C. Hoagland. It just opened up a whole world to me of exploration and ideas. And, all those shows kind of helped shape me as we started getting into it later in the 90s.
Sure.
And then, of course, obviously watching basically like in the late 90s, I remember watching a show called Most Haunted with Yvette Fielding and Carl Beatty. And Most Haunted is a television show that's based out of the UK, and it's very well known. And Yvette and Carl go to like 8 different English castles, and
Oh,
Scotland, and
cool. Yeah.
the Tower of London. They investigate. So that show was even before predated Ghost Hunters on Travel Channel. So it really opened up another world to me. And then in 2002. I had the opportunity to investigate the General Wayne Inn in Marion Station, Pennsylvania, where basically that I watched that episode with Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack. And what was fascinating was down in the basement area, people report seeing a Hessian soldier from the American Revolution named Wilhelm, supposedly that was died there. He was a part of Colonel Raw's regiment, and Colonel Raw, of course, was in charge of the Hessian soldiers outside of Philadelphia in the 1770s. And of course, Washington, of course, there's a famous portrait of him sailing across the Delaware that everyone has seen.
Wow.
Supposedly attacked his settlement on Christmas night of 1776, and then, of course, basically supposes this Hessian soldier had remained trapped there and died there on the property. So that was a really fascinating story. And of course, basically, with everything else, it opened up a whole world. So after that whole entire thing, I remember taking in the basement area, there was literally like I took my digital camera, just snapped 3 pictures. And mind you, back then, ghost hunting equipment wasn't like it was today.
No. Sure. Sure.
I
Sure.
mean, there's so much like back then. You might have had a digital camera, you
Yep.
might have had an EMF detector, and you might have had maybe
A voice
dowsing
recorder
rods,
or a
voice
voice
recorder,
recorder.
and a tape recorder, and that's
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
And you're basically maybe a flashlight, your senses. That was about it. And
Yeah.
maybe a digital and a Polaroid camera if you're lucky. And in the basement area, I picked up these really weird yellow green streaks of light. And I was like, hold on a second, why are these here? So I was kind of figuring out why they were here. And then what happened was I took them to a different film companies just to try to see maybe there was some kind of glitch or something in the way the photo was taken. And they all said, no, there's nothing here. So those green and yellow streaks of light matched the eyewitness accounts. My late mentor, Michael Lee Mayer, had did a quantitative analysis on the end back in the late 80s, early 90s. So she has since passed away, but she helped pave the way for me. She invited me on that
Cool.
investigation. And
Oh,
then in
sweet.
2004, the General Wayne Inn, of course, was sold to a Jewish synagogue. So now it's called Shabbat of the Main Line. It's still around, but just under different ownership now. So basically, 2004, all the television shows started popping up, and one of the first ones I was really interested in was Ghost Hunters with Jason Hawes and Grant Wilson. The Ghost Hunters, of course, pioneered everything for me. And mind you, I like to give a shout out to Jason Hawes from Ghost Hunters. Today's his birthday. He's
Oh,
54
really?
today.
Wow.
He
Okay.
really paved the way for someone like me. So Jason was a plumber from Rotor Rooter, just like Grant was. So they did their night business, and of course, when it came out on Sci-Fi, it was the coolest thing ever. And I
Yeah.
remember watching one of their first episodes at Eastern State, the penitentiary in Philadelphia, and literally you saw this door slam open by
Oh
itself,
no.
and all of a sudden Brian Hardoy's, who was one of the members at the time, just running out of there scared, like, and
I
Grant and
would
Jason are
too.
like, Jason and Grant are like, basically, you need to get back on there. You got to remain grounded. So that television show was really pioneering, because the one thing I loved about the Ghost Hunters was they never like believed every client's story. They
Sure.
always try to use the evidence. They try to figure out if there's a faucet turning on by itself. And well, as plumbers, they can look in and see if there was some kind of back, maybe some kind of problem with the faucet, and they would be able to fix it. Or maybe, like, for example, if people are seeing ghosts in their kitchen, basically, they went ahead and they might have made, could be high EMF fields that are letting off from like microwaves and stuff, and so
Huh.
high EMF fields can sometimes cause people to hallucinate. So that's what
Sure, sure.
Jason and Grant were really good at. And
Huh.
then around 2007, another show came out on television called Paranormal State with Ryan Buell, and
Yeah, I remember that one. I remember
yep.
that
And,
one. Yeah.
and Ryan, of course, I actually had one of Ryan's former team members on my team is in my research department named Holly Falk. She was Ryan's top assistant, and
Huh.
she's the head of our cult symbols spiritual beliefs department. She learned under Elfie Music, who basically is one of the original PRS members. And so when Paranormal State came out, it was a different show than Ghost Hunters because it kind of focused more on the clients and their stories and how they ended up. Besides, Ghost Hunters was all about going in there trying to capture evidence and show the reveal process to the client. But Paranormal State was more about tapping into the client's story, the interviewing it, documenting it, and all that, and
Right,
then
right.
having a psychic walkthrough with like Chip Coffey and Lorraine Warren, who was on that show, and Michelle Belanger. They pretty much interchanged all three of them out. And Lorraine passed away in 2019, but she was a real pioneer in the field, demonology and also the paranormal. So when that show came out, I was really drawn to it. But I think my favorite show out of all of them had to be Ghost Adventures with Zach Baggins, Aaron Goodwin, and Nick Roth. Because to me, when they really came out, they took what Ghost Hunters did and what Paranormal State did and elevated it even farther. Because what they did was they actually took like the tech. They were more about the tech and stuff and the science
Okay.
behind it. Like
Yes,
that's
yes.
what I love about Zach Baggins because he's been doing this a long time. And he uses the tech and the gadgets to really try to capture paranormal activity by using the scientific method, which is observe, create a hypothesis, develop the hypothesis, and see if you get results. And that's what I loved about that show. So as we went along, around about 5-6 years later, I started diving into. There was an episode called "The Haunting of Summerwind Mansion," and that episode was really fascinating because I ended up, watching that episode being fascinating. I went across a website called summerwindmansion.com and purchased the original blueprints, which are right here.
Yes, tell us more about. And this is in Wisconsin, right?
Yes, this is the most haunted house. This is the Glennsburg. Kind of hard to see, but I'll email you copies of. I'll email you
Yeah,
screenshots of these.
yeah, it'd
And
be
but
good. I can
what's
edit it
really
in there.
yeah, what's really cool about these is that these are like pretty much from Wisconsin, and we'll dive into the story of Summerwind in a second. So if you would like, I would love to start talking about that.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
So Summerwind was created by a man named John Frank. It was founded in 1914 as West Bay Lake Fishing Lodge. You can
Okay.
stay there for $4.99 a night in this fishing lodge. And there, basically, Mr. Frank, of course, was a carpenter who lived in Ohio. He came up to the upper UP of Wisconsin around
Hmm.
1914, built the fishing lodge. So basically, you could stay there for a while. But then what happened was 2 years later, he sold the property to a future U.S. Secretary of Commerce, a guy named Mr. Lamont, Robert Patterson Lamont. It was called the Lamont Mansion, but in those days, so Mr. Lamont bought the West Bay Lake Fishing Lodge from Mr. Frank. And then what happened was with these blueprints, of course, which you guys have seen,
Yeah.
he went ahead and basically edited or went ahead and basically had the mansion converted to from a fishing lodge into a full-fledged mansion. So it took about 2 to 3 years. So they had
Wow.
to reconvert it, and they added some buildings to the original Summerwind property, which were the playhouse. There was a servant's house where the servants actually would stay, and of course the main mansion. So the funny thing is, in the 1920s, it's even rumored that basically U.S. presidents stayed there, Warren G. Harding and Calvin Coolidge. And Mr. Lamont, of course, was a U.S. Secretary of Commerce under President Herbert Hoover, which is really fascinating. So it's rumored that when you have two presidents staying in the, Herbert Hoover's staff members' summer home, really, so the servants actually supposedly told Mr. Lamont, "Hey, the house is haunted," and Mr. Lamont's like, "Grow up. There's no such thing as ghosts." So he
Yeah.
had his own paranormal experience. So this is
Uh,
in the old episode called "The Haunting of Summerwind," and I'll supply that with you a link where you can watch that episode. It's about the Hinshaw family who lived there in the 70s. But according to the legend of Summerwind, is that Mr. Lamont was eating dessert with his wife, and the whole story is supposedly they had seen some rustling on this basement door. and this basement door flies open.
Mm.
And supposedly reveals the ghostly form of a man. And Mr. Lamont grabs his black powder pistol, pow pow, fires 2 shots at the door, missing the ghosts, and they never returned to the mansion. So what happened was around 13 years later, after they never returned, Mr. Lamont passes away around 1948, right after a little bit after World War II, and right around the time when Truman took over as president in 45. So
Oh.
after Mr. Lamont passed away, a lady named Miss Lillian Kiefer. So in the Summerwind episode, her name's Miss Murray. So they kind of changed it to protect the identity of the people involved. So
Mhm.
Miss Murray or Miss Kiefer bought the place around 48, 49. So she had supposedly would lease it out to people. And for example, it always would roll back. People would buy it, lease it out, and try to eventually, and it would go back to her almost every time. So it wasn't until the Hinshaw family moved in the summer of 1969. So the Hinshaw family was basically that, there's two family members of the Hinshaw. So there was the wife. Her name was Ginger or Virginia Hinshaw. She had passed away around 2013. But I'm a friend of the family, and I know the story like almost like in my whole entire head. Um, and there was also a guy named Arnold Hinshaw, whose real name was Jim Hill. Then once again they changed the names in the book to protect
Yeah.
the identity of the people involved in the story. So Arnold, he was a construction person, and I believe that Ginger herself, I think she was just a stay-at-home mom because they had it's basically your Brady Bunch family. You have one parent that has three kids and one parent that
Yep.
has three kids. So
Yep. Yep.
your typical Brady Bunch family. And so what happened was Miss Hinshaw and they said, "Hey, we got to go ahead and make a go of this place. This looks like a great fixer-upper." So
Mhm.
so the Hinshaws decided, okay, we're going to move into this place. And what happened was strange things supposedly from their reports started picking up the minute they moved in. So they were trying to employ construction workers to get like painting going on. Like they started getting construction, they renovate the old house, the old haunted house in Wisconsin.
That's awesome.
So they So what happened was they had rented some old different construction workers, and some of the workers reported that some of the tools would start disappearing. So, say,
Mm.
example, a person was priming a wall and just painting up and down like this.
Yep.
All of a sudden, they would leave the room for maybe a second to go get a drink or whatever, and supposedly the paintbrush had been moved or by itself, and no one had been in that room. So there's reported people, construction workers that were working, would supposedly tools would disappear, appliances would break
Wow.
down,
Okay.
and mind you, Summerwind was one of the first places to have running electricity, steam heat back in the 20s. So it was one of the first houses to have this back
Wow.
in Wisconsin during that time. So what happened was a little while later, supposedly the Hinshaws had a door that flew open like this by itself. So because I used to know April, who was the daughter of Ginger and stepdaughter of Arnold, they had to
Wow.
supposedly nail all the doors shut with a hammer. And what happened was supposedly after the doors would start flying shut, they started seeing like the porter seeing floating apparitions, muffled voices, different like supposedly a floating lady with a white dress in the kitchen area of
Wow.
Summerwind. So supposedly they started reporting seeing all kinds of strange apparitions and disembodied voices and so forth in the different rooms. So what happened was several months later, Arnold was supposedly working. He was going to go out to his car to work because he was a construction worker. So when he wasn't working on the house, he was doing his full-time job. And supposedly, according to the story, is that his car caught on fire. So when his car supposedly caught on fire, it had completely just no one. Supposedly the doors were all locked, and no one knows why the car caught on fire. But that's when everything started taking
That's weird.
a turn for worse at Summerwind. So around the 1970, so when they started, about 5 months after they moved in, different things started happening, which was really odd. So supposedly Arnold was starting to go mad, and supposedly he was playing this organ. There's this Wurlitzer organ in the house, so he would just play this organ to all hours of the night, and it would terrify the family so much. And then before he supposedly went crazy, he has supposedly here's a story from Summerwind that'll gore your hair.
Oh yeah. Go
A
ahead.
couple of weeks before he had started playing the organ, supposedly he had seen this crawl space inside one of the spare bedrooms, and he
Okay.
couldn't fit in there. So he shined his flashlight through, and he saw like a skeleton with black hair. So supposedly he's like, I can't get in here. See who he asked his daughter April, who in the book, the Carver Effect book, which is the Carver Effect, the Paranormal Experience. It's very, you can still get it. It's on like it's like $350 on Amazon, but it's very expensive. But you can see most of this on the Haunting episode, which is all covered in the book. But supposedly April had went into this crawl space and supposedly saw the skeleton with black hair. She screamed and literally a couple minutes later, they went to report it to the police, and the police came there, and the skeleton with black hair was gone. And then, of course, once the skeleton, that's where Arnold started playing the organ. And then what happened was
Whoa.
supposedly the family was so terrified of Arnold's music being played in the house, they had to stay in one room. So that was supposedly very interesting because that's what the
That's
being
super poltergeist right there, bro.
yes, absolutely.
Oh my
So,
God.
so supposedly playing the organ at all hours of the night, being terrified, and supposedly, according to the book, Ginger tried committing suicide, and then Arnold had basically supposedly was committed to a mental institution in Canada, was never seen again.
Oh,
So,
whoa.
so what happened was the place went back to Miss Kiefer around 71. And so she decided, okay, I think, this family didn't work out. But all of a sudden, there was a popcorn vendor from Chicago. His name was Raymond von Bober Sr. Raymond von Bober Sr. was a popcorn vendor, said, hey, I can make a go of that place, the Summerwind. But all of a sudden, Raymond von Bober was actually, he was looking for a project fixer-upper for him and his son, Ray. And Ray just got out of the Army. And Ray Jr. was the brother of Ginger Hinshaw. And of course, Ginger had pleaded to her father, Raymond von Bober Sr., do not buy that property. It's terrifying. It's demonic and all this stuff. And supposedly Ray Sr. was her father.
Whoa, whoa.
So basically, obviously, Ginger pleaded with her father not to buy it. But he said, I'm going to buy it anyway. So the Bobers ran into similar problems that the Hinshaws did. Construction workers would come there doing contracting, tools, appliances would break down. And here's a wild story from Summerwind that I learned from the Fox Valley Ghost Hunters founder, Craig Naring. And Craig, of course, runs Haunted Wisconsin Midwest.
Oh,
And
yeah, I heard of that.
yep. And obviously, I used to work with Craig on the project. And the
Oh,
story
cool.
supposedly was they would have the original blueprints, which are right here. And
Nice.
obviously, they would supposedly measure rooms. So they would, when Mr. Bober would measure, he would take the blueprints out and would measure rooms. Supposedly, the rooms were known to change shape. That's what
Whoa.
the story supposedly was about.
Is that house built on a Indian burial mound or
Yes,
something?
yes, it is.
Oh,
Yep.
shit. Okay.
You
Tell
read
me
my
more.
mind. So it was
Okay.
so it was built right on top of Indian burial mounds, which had been verified on the property. And so what happened
Wow.
after that was after they supposedly measured rooms with the thing, supposedly Ray would have a vision of the gunshot. He would be working upstairs painting, all of a sudden would start seeing like flashbacks of the gunshot. So he would go downstairs, and all of a sudden he saw a vision of the bullet. He finally saw the bullet holes, and he ran out of there. So he was terrified just to continue working in the property. So around
Oh, yeah.
1970, supposedly there was a story about a couple months later, around 74, 75. Ginger had put her father, Raymond Jr., under hypnosis, and they did a session. And supposedly they had a standard tape, because back then they didn't have like CDs or anything like we have now. So they supposedly did a tape session around the 70s or 80s. And supposedly he said, my name is Jonathan Carver. I am supposedly had put him in a trance, and I'm from Weymouth, Massachusetts. So what I found out was Jonathan Carver was supposedly supposedly the whole premise of the Carver Effect book is I had a dream, and there's this land grant that's on and buried in the foundation of Summerwind. There's no concrete evidence of that. As a friend of the family, they supposedly they claimed that I had a dream, and there's this land grant from the northern third of Wisconsin, but it was never found. And people still today go on the property and trespass and
Oh, my
still
God.
looking for that land grant that doesn't exist. I heard it was supposed to be found in England, but people still dig up the property looking for the land grant. So what happened was after Ray Jr. had, and Ray Sr. had wrote their book, The Carver Effect, The Paranormal Experience, which covered all the Hinshaw history. They gave the place back to Miss Kiefer around 79. So around 79 to 85, Miss Kiefer had it, but then she passed away around 85. What happened was
Wow.
in 85, there was a couple from La Crosse, Wisconsin by the
Oh,
name
yeah.
of Harold Tracy and Babs Tracy. Harold and Babs were friends with Craig. And
Okay.
obviously they had bought the place, and Mr. Tracy bought the place to Miss Tracy as like as a present for their wedding anniversary. So the Tracy supposedly reported one night around 86. They had supposedly started walking up to the mansion one night, and supposedly the owners had bought it. They said supposedly the mansion was like inhaling, like taking a life of its own. And so what happened was, unfortunately, the Tracy's were denied the opportunity to rebuild the house because on Father's Day of 1988, this was reported from a neighbor named Jim Lechner who had since passed away. But before he passed away, he did a story on Summerwind where supposedly the township was tired of people trespassing and vandalizing on the property. So supposedly this neighbor had said that the fire department was going to be on site, and there was this guy named Mr. Ramish, supposedly who was part of the Land O'Lakes, Wisconsin Fire Department, was supposedly there. He would be on site, and so supposedly this neighbor had supposedly seen the township burn the place down.
Wow.
And it was covered in the Milwaukee Sentinel in 2017. So that whole story about the place, supposedly they took bales of hay and they just leveled the whole place down. So the
Oh
place
my
was
God.
burnt down to a crisp. So there's nothing left of the place today. All
That
that
sucks.
remains today, are the chimneys. The two tall chimneys are still there. The foundation is still there. Like the actual original foundation is still at Summerwind in the steps. So there's nothing left of the place. But with the original blueprints, we could rebuild it. So that was my whole premise in
Oh.
2014. When I had watched that haunting episode, I bought the original blueprints and I was seeking out a connection to the owners of Summerwind. So I came across Craig Naring from the Fox Valley Ghost Hunters, who at that time was running an upstart paranormal team just like I am now. And
Yes.
he reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in coming working with me on this project?" So I was working from Pennsylvania doing like publicity of media relations for him. So he was doing
Sure.
all the on-site stuff of Summerwind. So we created the Summerwind Restoration Society together around 2014. So we're trying to restore, rebuild, and relaunch Summerwind. And
Wow.
rebuilding a
That's
haunted
fucking.
house would be an incredible idea. No
Oh
one's
my
ever.
God.
And
That's such
so
a great concept. The fact that you had the blueprints too, to like start it like how it was.
yes,
Maybe not build it on an ancient burial mound, or maybe you
yes.
do to get the frequency back again. Like,
Yes, exactly. So what happened was, unfortunately, we are doing really well. A lot of benefits were being made on the property. We're raising a lot of money, but we kind of ran into similar problems that the Hinshaw family, the Bobers, and everyone else, Mr. Lamont, had all ran into. Funding. We actually Craig supposedly had a estimate done on the blueprints. And I bought the blueprints from Ginger Hinshaw's brother Ray Jr., who has since passed away in 2024. But I try to continue his legacy with the Summerwind.
that's cool.
When the supposedly he had the guy estimates on it was going to cost between $500,000 to $1 million. That was in 2014. It's probably even more money now. With coding, you got zoning you have to deal with. You got to deal with contractors, and so it might be even closer to $1 million, $2 million by now. But in 2014, 2015, that's what we were doing with the project holding benefits. And I got Craig on Coast to Coast AM. And then a couple months later, I remember originally calling to a radio show. And all of a sudden he said, "Hey, this is Dr. J. I'm the original producer of Art Bell." And I booked my friends Craig Naring and Kevin Malik. And Kevin, of course, was awesome. He ran a society called the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society. I'm sure you remember Kevin very well. The NWPS, and Jennifer
Yeah.
Skelsey, his wife, who I still talk to all the time.
Oh,
Kevin
cool.
and Jennifer were really good friends, and I got them on Coast to Coast, and I started working with Dr.
That's so
J. He's
cool.
like, "I need some help," and I said, "I'll see what I can do." So I did some audio editing for Dr. J, and mind you, that turned out to be an amazing experience. So that's the whole story of Summerwind. And we actually did have contact Jeff Belanger from Ghost Adventures. He was interested in doing a updated haunting episode with Summerwind, and we were trying to pitch it to Travel Channel. But around 2020, with the pandemic, all the budget cuts didn't make it possible. But I would love to someday see that place rebuilt. And unfortunately, around 2024, the place went up for sale after Miss Tracy passed away, and Mr. Tracy passed away. So I believe there's new owners now, and supposedly the new owners aren't as open to rebuilding a haunted house. But it's got great potential if you find the right people.
Yeah, man, you are packed with knowledge, bro. Like you are like a historian.
Yes.
No, you really are. You jam packed your head with all the names and dates and situations. And you're a great storyteller, bro. So yeah,
Thank you.
keep it coming.
Yes.
Seriously, man. No wonder they liked you on Coast to Coast.
Yes.
You're a radio man.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, that's really cool. So yeah, man, my next question was before that. No, again, very interesting with the summer. Again, I never heard of this house. And this is like blowing my mind. When you were describing this, I was like picturing poltergeist, like like real especially when this girl sees a skeleton like
Right.
with hair, and there's
Yes.
really like enough where you thought she could touch it, like a full
Yes.
blown apparition. Um,
And
again,
speaking of that, what's interesting was this was for World's Largest Ghost Hunt 2017. Supposedly Craig's team was there. At was the Fox Valley Ghost Hunters were there in 2017 for National Ghost Hunting Day, which is the world's largest ghost hunt where they do a live stream thing with
okay,
different teams around the world. And supposedly, there was a they were filming around the steps. They had a camera on the steps of Summerwind. Supposedly, they called it the floating lady with the white dress. It should be on the Fox Valley Ghost
okay,
Hunters Facebook page. I'll see if I can find a video of it for it, and I'll send it to you.
yeah, please do. That's so cool.
Yes.
I was gonna ask you too. You ever heard of the theory called stone tape theory?
Yes, I think it's supposed to be something like about like supposedly a stone could hold like a place memory of something embedded in the environment, similar to like a residual haunting.
Yes. Yeah, I just thought like it's interesting because I was just bought. I mean, I never heard of this until like about 2 years ago. Someone brought it up on my show. I was like, "What the fuck is that?" And it's just describing about like when somebody dies in a room, or again, like near a stone, or
Yeah.
the spirit leaves its last somewhat moments recorded on the wall. So the
Yep.
living here kind of like sparks it to play.
Yep.
That's why you see some of the ghosts doing the same thing over and over again. You know, it's kind of
Yes.
like, because again, you would hate to think that your spirit is trapped in this one room that does like replay everything and looking out the window once in a while because it's sad. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like, what the fuck? But no, I like the theory that it might
It's
just be
interesting.
like a little snippet of a recording of the last
Yep.
moments, the last like
Last things like
memories
this
or something.
that the person did while they were alive,
Yes, exactly, right.
and they're kind of embedded in that environment, and that's kind of similar to like a
Yes, yes.
residual haunting, which is
Okay.
there are four type of hauntings, which are intelligent, which directly interact with the living. There is residual, like exactly that stone tape theory. That
Yes,
it's like
yes,
a tape recorder that plays
yes,
itself over and over,
yes,
like a
yes.
memory in the
Mhm.
environment. Think of the Battle of Gettysburg in Pennsylvania,
Yes,
where
yes, yes.
60,000 people lost their lives, and
Yeah.
people report seeing apparitions on the battlefield. It's that past memory that plays itself over and over. There's also demonic hauntings, which are like negative beings that prey on the living. Think about the Warrens and their work with the conjuring, and then you have poltergeists, which are I have another fascinating guest for you. I think you might be interested in. I'll let you know about Ben Keith Linder for the Bothell Hell House. Supposedly he had a
Oh,
poltergeist ghost with levitating plants, which is interesting.
whoa. It's like my marijuana plant's moving
Yes.
around.
Yes, I had booked him from my old boss Heather Wade, who is the producer of Art Bell until
Oh, that's
2018, and
cool.
he had an interesting story about that case. But yeah, there's so many cases out there in terms of the paranormal, and for me, the Summerwind case in Wisconsin is pretty much the most famous. Everyone knows it.
Well, I feel like a dumbass not knowing that story.
Okay, but
But
now
no,
you know
the
it.
fact, no, I do know it. And the
Yep.
fact that there's so much information, and in the fact you have the blueprints, the original blueprints. So I love stuff that comes out of Wisconsin, and the fact that's physical stuff, that it has a lot of history to it. And the fact that you even thought about recreating this place. That
Yes.
is another awesome idea because I think the people who are really involved and love the story of this um, haunting, they just want to go see it again. You know what I'm saying? The fact that it had it burnt
Absolutely.
down, that sucks. You know?
And I think especially if I can get a hold of the owners, maybe I could throw the idea out to them, like the
Mm.
new owners. If I could sit down, I called the Chamber of Commerce in Land O'Lakes, Wisconsin, and had they're going to try to connect me with the owners. And if I can get a hold of them, I could like maybe lease out the blueprints, and they can get an updated estimate done, and maybe someday we could rebuild it down the road with the new owners. So anything's possible if we can reach out to them and get a hold of them and see if they're interested you know that would be really cool. So maybe
Or
down the
yeah,
road,
or
that's
make it Airbnb. You know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly. Yep.
that's how you make the money back after building that motherfucker.
Yes. Exactly.
And I think that'd be great because the people who are just ghost seekers, that'd be a place to be like, oh my God, they recreated like the old crazy haunted place that used to change. Maybe you should have some of the rooms like actually change and shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Wig people out and shit.
Yes.
um, I had a guy on here a few times. His name is Kyle Manger. He's out
Oh, I
in
heard of him.
you know
Yes.
him, the ghost
Yep.
guy that does the ectoplasm.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, he's amazing. I love watching his videos because he's surrounded by people while he's standing there while he's having these ectoplasm coming out of his nose and mouth and goes on the ground and acts like a snake and shit. And he has actually had people touch this stuff too. It's like he's cold and wet and has it disappear and shit. Like again, amazing. And he was telling me that he's more or less a tool when everybody's there getting the trance all together where it creates the energy and power where the ghost or the paranormal uses his body as
Like a
the
vessel.
store a vessel and kind of like does demonstrations and stuff like that. But again, it's so amazing, and the way he talks is like a mystic. Like
Yes.
he should have like been born in the 1400s or some shit. You know what I'm saying?
Like it's like the medieval times.
Yeah, straight up. But no,
He's
that's why I love.
fascinating.
I think that's when other uh, people are drawn to him too, and he's so wise and
Knowledgeable and
he's like a
articulate.
historian himself. He's really knowledgeable about his history and where the paranormal stuff really came from. 'Cause he talks about like that Native Americans were doing like
Oh
the
wow.
ectoplasms and stuff like that. And I didn't know that
Yes.
either. I was like, what the fuck? So,
And Native Americans are very spiritual people
oh
too,
yeah,
and they have different like beliefs and all that than we do. But they've been around long before we ever were here, and they have all kinds of different religious rituals with like dream catchers and like different techniques to use to weed out negative spirits and stuff from
yes.
sage, of course, from their their trainings. So some of the things and methods that they have are in terms of cleansing and removing negative entities are some of the best methods that you can use on investigations. And we've had that happen with our team. So with Melissa and Rick. And so basically, it's definitely it's things that could some of the methods that they have are some of the best ones you can use for any investigation or any situation.
Well, I was gonna say this is my personal collection
Oh wow,
of Kachina dolls from the
nice.
1950s, and then the ones in the back, the larger ones, are from the 1930s,
So
and they all
cool.
have the original stamps. And
Wow.
yeah, again, I love the Native American culture, especially when it comes to ancient astronauts. And the Hopis are like talk about these 200 ancient astronaut things coming down to help them.
Oh yeah,
Survive and stuff. Yeah, again, beautiful. And I just love how
fascinating.
some of the women, do their hair just like the
Oh
Kachina. You know
cool.
what I'm saying?
Absolutely. That's
It's
so cool. And
the
I should
cargo
connect you.
cult.
I should connect you with one of my friends named Mel. Obviously, I think his name Mel Standing Eagle. He actually
Oh,
is,
cool.
I suppose, related to Pocahontas, descended from Pocahontas, the first Indian
Whoa.
who was here back, fell, the Holster herd and
Yes.
John Smith, and I think he's like a 10th or 12th or 15th, something like that, of great grandson, or were somehow related to her. And of course, he's best friends with Daniel Brinkley, who had a near death experience as well. And Daniel, of course, was best friends with Art. So I'll be happy to connect you with him. He's really
Oh,
cool.
that'd be really cool, man. That's so nice of you. I was gonna tell you this too. I don't know if you ever heard of this place,
Beautiful.
Poland, Wisconsin, is a
Oh yeah.
south of Green Bay, where this farmer named Bob claims
Yes.
that there's UFOs and aliens hovering and landing on his property for years. So much so he built this giant spaceport to attract them more.
That's
You know
so
what I'm
cool.
saying?
That's so cool in UFO landing port. And I know
Yeah.
Kevin and Jennifer, when Kevin had passed away in 2019, 6 years ago around this time, but when him and NWPS, they were very much involved in the Wisconsin MUFON,
Yes,
doing directly working with them. And
that's
I,
the APRO.
yeah,
That's when I
yes,
first started with Coral Lorenz and her husband Robert or Jim.
yes,
Sorry,
yeah,
Jim.
yes.
Uh, yeah. Actually, I have one of. I can't grab it right now, but I have a hat of the original from the 1970s of
Oh,
Apros. I
nice.
won that in an auction too. I was
Awesome.
like, I had to get my hands because that they started out in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin. So
Wow.
that's just to say a lot that the first UFO organization started in Wisconsin.
I did.
It's been a
I did
hot
not.
spot, baby.
I did not know that, and especially having a UFO historian myself, and especially in abductions, like in the story of Betty Barney Hill, and of course Kathleen
Yes.
Martin, their niece, is like pretty much the encyclopedia of them. She's like very much their representative, and of course the Travis Walton abduction is
Yes.
fascinating.
Love
With
that one.
Snowflakes at Arizona, and I know Travis very well. I'm a friend of his.
Oh, cool. I have his autograph.
Nice. He's such a
Yeah.
cool guy. And
Oh, he
all
is.
these abduction stories always have the same correlation of people having markings on their hands or their foreheads. Obviously, like
Yes.
sometimes, like even like Roger Lear, who is the alien implant doctor. I never knew Roger Lear personally, but my old boss, Dr. J, who worked for Art Bell, had supposedly said that Lear had supposedly performed hundreds of surgeries and,
Yes.
removing implants of like different, like little pieces of metal in people's
Yeah,
arms
he
and
had it
stuff.
like a collection, like a
You know,
suitcase collection.
Exactly, in abduction, research, and of course, one guy I think that was always fascinating was Dr. David Jacobs. He was like pretty much the encyclopedia of abductions. One of the greatest. He's a professor from Temple University. He has like hundreds of files of abductions dating back to like the 50s.
Wow. Yeah, dude, it's like so much. Like J. Ellen Hynek, the guy who
Yes.
was
Oh,
again was a
Paul,
skeptic in the beginning, a scientist
Project
until
Blue
like the
Book.
government threw him in and like was like actually like he was doing his research like, oh fuck, this
Absolutely.
shit is real.
And
And the
Paul,
fact that there's a whole different project that the government was kind of fucking with him at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
absolutely. And
It's so
Project Blue
fucking
Book was
weird.
one of the first real, UFO like investigation things. Like even before MUFON, like in terms of opening up, like bringing public awareness to flying saucers and all that. And the government was involved in it and different tests and all that, and testing out like space, catching spacecrafts from all over the world and different documented sightings and reports. And Paul Hynek, of course, is like the protector of Dr.
Yeah.
J. Allen Hynek's research as his son.
Yeah.
So he's kind of continuing his legacy.
That's so great that he is. You know,
Yes,
how could you not?
exactly.
That's just too much pressure and like too much importancy to have you not carry on that torch, you know? Like people would get
Exactly.
mad at you or probably go crazy. It's
And
like,
roll with it. And of course, the story of Clifford Stone, and he was a lieutenant army colonel. He had a fascinating UFO. He passed away, and I remember that story very well. So it's just so much amazing. UFOs is like one of my favorite topics because you get to spend hours just reading about it, and like of course, obviously Philip Corso, who was at Roswell in the 1947. In that case, of course Philip Corso, and of course, Jesse Marcel, supposedly who claimed as junior, about holding, he supposedly holding the first piece of metal from Roswell. And I can tell you from Linda Moulton Howell just recently told me on text message that she has a piece of the Roswell wreckage from
oh,
Roswell. And she supposedly said that she asked me about Irene Bell. Irene's, obviously Art's widow. Art passed away in 18, but
right.
supposedly Irene has another piece of metal that Linda wanted to test at a laboratory. And if there's a correlation between them, they could both be like pieces from Roswell. And I'll definitely keep you updated if
Yeah,
Irene
please do.
sends
My
that out
God.
to Linda.
That's so awesome. Yeah, oh man, I would love to meet Linda one day. I think one day I could if I ever go over those conventions or
Yeah, she
something.
does a lot of like stuff like in the like the different, I think there's like different ones and stuff like that. I think there's like different UFO conferences and stuff, that you'll see her there quite often with like
So
Whitley and
I watch her podcast on YouTube.
Earth Files. Oh, I love Earth Files.
Oh
It's so
God,
cool.
it's all awesome, and I love her cats. I love how the cats is roaming on her.
Oh yeah,
I'm a
Chocolate.
cat person myself, so I'm like, oh my God,
She's got her
she's
she's got a dog named Chocolate too, if I remember
yeah,
correctly.
that's so funny.
She's so cool.
Yeah, she's super dope. Um, trying to think who else. Another case I really like with the abduction case is the Calvin Parker and Charles
Oh yeah,
Hickson
yeah.
with
I had some.
Pelagus Pestigula case,
Yes, I had read a little
Mississippi.
bit about that, and I think that he has supposed it was was it England, I think, where he had his abduction case.
Yeah, they're both. They're two colleagues, and I think Kelvin was 19 at the time, and I think Hickson was like in his 40s or some shit. Well, I have like, I should probably show you sometime. But anyways, I have a collection of Kelvin's signatures and actually sketches that he actually
Oh,
did, and I
oh
have
wow,
those originals. I'm like,
nice.
so, um, yeah, we actually had Kelvin right before he died. I think it was one of his last interviews was with us.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh
you
wow.
have to scroll all the way down if you go want to search for it.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Another guy you might want to talk to is Terry Lovelace. I don't know if he's still alive. Like he had to call it, it's in a Devil's Den, where he had a UFO experience supposedly in Gettysburg or something. I can't remember if it's in Gettysburg or somewhere in Texas. Lovelace had
Yeah.
an interesting abduction story too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. No, I just find it really unique how it was these well, it's like an egg-shaped UFO with blue lights and the three creatures that came out of it that were floating off the ground, but they had like claw-like hands and like elephant skin, no eyes, but like a pointy nose and pointy ears. But
Oh
like
yeah,
when they grabbed, the guys, they kind of went numb, but they're still awake. And
oh
then
yeah.
there was a woman with like I think
I
she had
heard
like
about that.
turquoised hair,
Heard
very
about
like
that.
very humanoid, but she was
Yes.
sticking fingers down his Calvin's throat and shit, and
Calvin's
he's like, ugh.
Yeah, I heard about that. Obviously, because I think Calvin Parker was on the Kingdom and I with Heather Wade, and I remember booking him for Heather in around 18 or 19 when I was her producer, and
Oh, cool.
he had an interesting story about exactly what you said about that, and obviously his stories never changed, like just like Bob
No, it
Lazar's, like
doesn't. Yeah, Bob doesn't. Yeah,
Lazar's stories never changed
the
about Area
Travis
51.
Waltons are very solid.
Yep.
Yep.
Lazar's stories never change, and I always wanted to pick Lazar's brain about the different story about inside Area 51 because he was, mind you, he was a lab physicist inside Los Alamos, so he had inside access to Area 51. And supposedly he had said there's giant robots on Area 51, and there's all kinds of And I suppose I heard this story from Heather when I was producing for her, that supposedly she said that Bob Bigelow, who is like
Oh yeah.
Bigelow
Yep.
Aerospace CEO guy, supposedly has a flying saucer somewhere outside Area 51. Don't know where, but there's supposedly he's got like some kind of alien space spacecraft inside his company.
Didn't Rob Bigelow like purchase Skidwalker Ranch before he
Yes.
sold it?
Yep. Or
Again,
something.
it just shows that he was just going reaching for the deepest, and he found some shit I can imagine.
Yes, he did, and I think that Brandon Fugel had purchased it, I believe, from
Yeah.
Bob Bigelow.
Do you watch that show to keep up with all the new?
Yes, I tried to as
Okay.
much as
Yeah.
possible. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
No, it's cool. And yeah, just ancient aliens. Again,
Oh
I love
yeah,
how it's the slow drip of disclosure, right? The fact that ancient aliens has been on for like what, 20 years now?
yeah. And
It's like, how are you having this on the on the History Channel at that? But
and
I
you
love
think
that it
about
is
it.
on the, no, I'm glad that it is on the History Channel
Right.
because,
And what really, to me, like what really gave Ancient Aliens its start and influenced it the most was a book by called Chariots of the Gods by
oh
Eric von
yes,
Donigan.
oh
And
yes,
von Donigan kind of laid the foundation for Giorgio Tsoukalos and Kevin Burns to
yes,
create Ancient Aliens and all the theories, like the different things about Stonehenge and all that,
yes.
and Egypt, and the pyramids could be of extraterrestrial influence. So to me, I have to really give Mr. Von Donigan like kind of like the kind of like the OG. He's like the guy that kind of
He's
helped.
yes. I want to get his name tattooed on me, or maybe his portrait.
Yes.
No, that's actually it's really funny. I was never a big reader in like school, and like I only read a few books in school, but out of high school, I never read much until Chairs to the Gods. I read that from front to back, and then I was like, "That's it."
Well,
I was just
he's
like a tap on the back. It's like, man, this is like the most interesting shit to me, where I had to like keep flipping the page and just
and that's
soak
probably
up
why
everything.
your show's called Flying Chariots, because that's influenced from Chariots of the
It
Gods.
definitely was.
That's so cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome that you were able to get inspired to start your own show right
Yes.
from Eric von Donigan's book, just like it influenced Ancient Aliens, it influenced you, which is
Yes.
good. And you
Yes.
had that experiences, and you ended up doing this because it's what you love doing, and you're great at
And
it.
I'm from Wisconsin, and where APRO has got its start, the first UFO organization, you know what I'm saying?
Nice. That's so cool.
Yeah, and Cora Lorenzen actually had her first sighting when she was 9 years old
I
in
heard about that. Yes.
Barron, Wisconsin. That was like northeast of Wisconsin.
Okay, because
She
they're
was with
probably around North.
she was with her friends playing out in the yard, and then they
Huh?
noticed this like UFO that was like an umbrella shaped without
I
the
heard about the
pole and the
umbrellas.
spokes. And it's kind of bouncing around like that. And she's like, "Oh
Yep,
my
it's
God,
going
what
up
the
and
fuck is
down.
that?" But again, that's where again drove the nail forward. Like
Yes.
I'm gonna need to start an organization. There's something here in Wisconsin that's just like crazy because I'm pretty sure she heard other reports down of growing up, in Wisconsin. Like, oh, you seen that? Oh, Elmwood has because Elmwood too has been having their UFO parade
So
since the 1940s.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
they
holy
have like
fuck that.
crashes I think Wisconsin's got a ton of known crashes, like the ones that you had described, like all over the state. And people, there's been like reports of see people seeing UFOs all over the state since like the '60s, '50s, and even the '30s, from what I was told.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, just having the rich history and being very prevalent and having three towns that claim to be the UFO capital of the world. That's pretty gnarly.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. And of course, you got your Green Bay Packers who are real big out there too.
Yes. But I can show you here. I got some.
Nice.
I collect a lot of. I'm a huge. Like, I'm pretty sure you're also a big collector.
Oh, yes.
Let's see here. Got a big chest in front of me here. Shit. So I got some of these. Check this out. I got some of these old pins
Oh, wow, so
from
cool. Oh, wow. That's so, I think Billyville, Wisconsin, UFO
Belleville,
capital.
Wisconsin.
That's
Yes.
so awesome.
So this is
I
from the
like it. I like the,
80s.
that's so cool. You can definitely tell that was made in the '80s. The shape, the colors.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And that's what it says UFO Days, July 30th, 1989 UFO Days,
Yeah.
Elwood,
Yeah.
Wisconsin. I love it. I like the little like Martian thing, little saucer. That's so cool.
And check this one
Oh, nice. July 29th, 1988, L1 UFO Days. Looks like a place for us. It's so cool.
And now
The little
check
flying
this one.
Martian.
This one's old as fuck.
Oh, wow. 75th anniversary. Like
And that's
June
from
25th, 26th, 27th.
1980, and it's her
Wow.
75th anniversary. Like
Wow.
what?
So that's
So
insane.
you're the same, right?
So that would be like 110 years or something like that. Like, if it was today. That is so cool. You have those. And those might be
Yeah.
worth money. I
Yes,
would
they
say
are.
they're very collectible. I would say
Yes.
hold on to those
Oh, I
because
will. Oh yeah, trust me.
don't ever sell them if you can.
No.
They're very collectible. And, for those to be out there, those could probably be highly sought after by a lot of UFO collectors. So I would hold on to those and never pass them down to your family.
Yeah, no, I do cherish everything. I do. I have like tons of UFO memorabilia. I
Nice.
spent thousands and thousands of dollars on, again, getting my hands on Colonel Wendell Stevens' photographic archives when I won those in a storage locker auction 3 years ago. And again, that was the golden ticket that got me into this community, and everybody wants to talk to me. And that's because I was being asked to go on other podcasts and showcase these photographs. And I actually went to Chicago's paranormal
Awesome.
convention and was
Nice.
sharing the booth with Barnaby Jones with
I heard part of it. Yes.
yes, Cap City,
Nice.
not Cap City, sorry. Caps, Wisconsin Caps.
Nice.
No, yeah, he's super awesome. He shared the booth with me, and it happened to be right across from the MUFON, Illinois directory. So the what's his name, Samuel. God, it's
I
the
know
head
like every
director.
MUFON has a different like they have state directors and
State
then they have
directors, yeah.
then they have like section directors for like
It
different
was the
parts of the
state
state.
director. It was
Yeah.
the state director, and like Barnaby's like nudging me. He's like, "Go over there with the photographs." So I would go over there, and I tell him my story of how I got these, and him and his colleagues, eyes were bugging out of their heads. They're all like hunched over my. They're all going like, "We haven't seen physical stuff," and especially with the stuff that I have is a series of photographs of the same object going across the sky in the terrain and stuff. So actually see the person going like, like
It's amazing, and especially for Mr. Stevens to give you his archives, he must have trusted you to really carry on his legacy.
Well, that's I talked to Paula Harris on the phone for two
Pell, I love her.
hours.
She's so
Yes,
nice.
super
I love
nice.
her.
And she told me exactly the same thing, that I was kind of carrying on the legacy of Wendell. And then Wendell was probably looking down from heaven saying, "Thank you for carrying on the torch, for just keeping these relevant to the stories going."
And I will say that Dr. Jacobs, especially, I heard he's got dementia, and I know that he got tons of abduction records that date back to like the 50s and the 60s and 40s. And I know he's trying to talk about eventually giving his archives over to somebody to take over to research. If I get a hold of some of his stuff, I will let you know. Oh, that's so cool. That's you and the state
That's
director.
the head, yeah, state director, yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, there's the photographs that I brought. He's just wigging. Look at his friend, his mouth open.
That's amazing. So this is all Wendell Stevens' like archives and different things that
Yes,
he had.
I have the photo of them. It's over 200 photographs of originals.
Wow, that's amazing
And
collection.
some of them have negatives to them.
Wow. So these are
Yeah.
probably things that Mr. Stevens had basically captured while basically being in the military, being like, stationed at different places. And he would see UFOs in different places and would capture them like in the sky in the different light patterns. So it's amazing to see these archives that you have of his
Oh, thank
work.
you. Thank
Yep.
you.
And
Yeah,
that
and
you can preserve it.
the fact that he was giving me a fist bump right there. He's like,
Yep.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it was I'm so glad that I went over there and blew his mind. And he's like, I need your phone number, I need your email, I need your it's just like
Nice.
I'm like awesome. He's like gives me all his business cards. I'm like, yeah,
Nice.
he's
That's
like, we need
so
to keep
cool.
in touch with you. And I'm like, that's so tight.
That's so
So
cool. The
yeah.
state director really showed that he valued you and he
Yes, he
valued your
did.
work.
It's so cool. Yeah, it was.
And you got to network with them and stay in touch with them over email and all that.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, it's been an honor ever since I got these photographs, and I've been meeting all these people that have been on Ancient Aliens, and we had Preston Dennett on the show. We
Oh,
had
Preston. Oh, yeah. Here's a story of Preston. He's him and my old boss, Dr. J. They actually Preston was a co-host with Dr. J
oh,
when
is he? Okay,
on
cool.
Researchers on a Mission. It was called Rome. It was kind of like the predecessor to Dr. J Radio Live. And Preston, of course, has done so much. He's got books like called
Yes,
UFOs over Arizona, UFOs over California. I
he
mean,
does stuff with the paranormal too, not
like
just
he does
not just
ghosts and
UFOs.
Bigfoot.
Yeah,
He's like an encyclopedia of the
he
paranormal.
is.
I'm telling you, you get him. He's like just like Linda. If you start getting him talking, he can go on for hours.
Yes, yes, and he knows a lot of UFO stories here in Wisconsin. So that was very a treat to hear that from his own mouth
Oh
when I
yeah,
had him on here. No, it was really cool. But no, again, just the surrealness. And maybe like you might feel this too. I feel like we're steering our destiny. Like
yes,
if I put this energy into what I love every day I wake up, it seems to always work out for me. Where it's like the next person I'm talking to, the next person is like yourself. Like you wanted to meet me super bad, and like we finally got to make it happen. I'm
yeah,
so glad we did because you're such a
yes.
great talker, bro, and you're like so packed with knowledge, and
You were
you know,
too.
no, seriously, man. Like my mouth was dropped half the time you were talking today. I was like,
That's-
damn. I was like, shit. I did not know,
Absolutely.
especially that haunted house in Wisconsin.
Yes. You got the whole story from someone that worked on the project.
Yes, that's so tight, man. Man, do you have any future upcoming investigations?
Yes. So actually, I'm really excited. So actually, I'd like to go through a little bit about fan detectives, like who's in the organization. Just kind of go through just briefly who's
Because
been. So
one of your co-hosts were on my
yeah,
or one of your
Melissa.
yes, Melissa.
So Melissa, here's how the funny thing. So I'll try to go through really quick the backstory of Fan Detectives. So I found the organization in August 2020 because I wanted to revolutionize paranormal investigating in Pennsylvania. So I came up with the idea because there's an old 1930s to 1950s comic called Phantom Detective. I thought this is really fascinating. So I want to go ahead and build my own. Have my own website built. So I had built my own website built. I had a developer from India do it, and then I had business cards made, built up the social media pages, and started doing investigations under the new banner. And my first team member, she was a Civil War reactor and sound engineer, and she was only there for a year. But I remember inviting Melissa into the
Yes.
organization, and so I got a recommendation from Cindy Kaza from the show The Holzer Files in June 2021. And Cindy's like, you should get my student Melissa. I was trying to get Cindy originally to investigate. She's like, Josh, I'm sorry, I'm busy. I got too much going on with my mediumship stuff. So Melissa, I invited her along, and Melissa has been spot on with every single
Yeah,
investigation.
she's
And she
dope.
and she also serves as case manager. So we like to keep our team small because it's so much easier because you don't want so like 50 people running around.
Yeah, yeah.
And we
It'd be
also
too
have
many ideas too, or like
Yes, and we also
theories.
have Rick Warner. Rick is really fascinating. I think you would love to interview him on your show. Rick runs an organization called Extraterrestrial Research Center. He has
Oh,
his own UFO organization,
oh, yeah.
basically, and they're pretty fascinating. And then right around 2021, I bought Dark Matter News, which was a news service from Art Bell's final show.
Oh,
That
cool.
Leo Ashcraft had read the news for Art. It was a 5 minute paranormal NBC style newscast, and we resurrected it in 2025 with
Oh,
Joshua Stark taking over for Leo and on Midnight Frequency, which is Art's brother-in-law's new show. That Carl and I are working together on that show.
that's so cool.
Bringing on like Bill Burns and Richard C. Hoagland, and we're going to be bringing on in the future. We're going to be bringing on Katrina Weidman and Heather Taddy from Paranormal State, and Linda Moulton Howe will be coming back in 2026 on the show
Oh
as a
man.
UFO commentator. We also got Ross Mitchell returning, who is Art's old former announcer. So that's going to be really fascinating. So it's kind of like bringing back the feel of that show, because I feel like Coast to Coast today has become nothing but a giant infomercial. As much as I love George Norrie, I feel like he's going far away from the direction that Art originally had intended. So we're trying to bring back Midnight Frequency as like the next step of the continuation of the legacy under a new banner.
Ooh.
And we want to make Art proud from heaven and keep his memory going. So something that me and the Bell family have, we made a privilege to do that. So in terms of fan detectives, I remember we also have Rick Warner, and we also have Mark Anthony, the psychic lawyer. He's an Oxford educated attorney. He's author of 3 books. He also went to Arthur Finney College in England. Just a really fascinating guy. His book is about the electromagnetic soul, and he talks about how when you throw a stone into the water, it ripples basically. So
Mhm.
Mark serves as he's like our Jeff Bellinger. He does all of our haunted locations research. And then we also have Holly, who is part of the PRS group, and we got a graphic designer and a webmaster. So it's a great organization, and we've been getting bigger and bigger every year. We've been on television now like 16 times in two
Yeah, see, you
years.
guys have been on the news.
We've been on the news like a lot. We've been on the front page of several newspapers.
Good for you, bro.
So,
Seriously, you,
and the
you
funny thing is,
making a name for yourself. It's so dope.
yes, and it's just I think the key is like you can do anything you put your mind to. You just got to
It
go
is
up and do it.
seriously. You can steer your destiny. I think you and I are somewhat proof of that. Of like how, especially having our own experiences with the
Brands, yep,
paranormal, and then
yes,
having the drive
go up,
and
do it.
the patience, and yeah, just the again the to do this every day and like wake up and like have. I'm doing all this, like the booking, all the editing, all the AI, and all the cool shit you see is all me.
That's
You
amazing.
know what I'm saying? It's just like I should make my house an LLC like you're doing shit.
Yes, that would be so cool. Then you could like start building and start.
Yeah.
That's so cool. You do all your editing and you're very passionate. You're knowledgeable, just like I am. We both
Thank
share
you.
the same passion, and I love. You're a great host.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Ah,
No, and again, I love that you guys are making news lines, and that's what makes you stand out than the other people who just do it just for fun and hobbies. But it is a fun and hobby thing for you, but you get the drive of having the attention that you're getting is where it's at. You know what I'm saying? And the people you work with a bunch of big namers, man. That's some
yes,
shit.
absolutely. And we've
I'm kind
worked
of
with it, and
jealous.
and especially because having worked with the king of the paranormal's family, like Art to me was the greatest there ever was in terms of this field. Like he's numero uno to me. Like back in the 90s, Art had 18 to 20 million listeners, million a night, and that was on 600 radio stations. And I don't think even Dr. Phil could even get like 12 million on television today. So he, opening up a whole world of exploration and ideas, like the Area 51 caller from 1997. Everyone remembers that, like when the supposed caller was,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
determined to be a hoax, but it was still captivating radio, and that's what Art was all about.
Yes. No, radio is so powerful. Remember, like back in the 50s, where they like World of Worlds.
Yes,
They had like a play. They thought when they turned on the radio, they thought it was like a real newscast talking
yes,
about these people are dying and shit, and there's aliens here. And then the people actually packed up, and some of them committed suicide because they thought
yes,
the world was ending.
yes,
It was such
absolutely.
an uproar, but it just shows how impactful. Maybe they have to be careful on how they do disclosure, especially if
Yes,
someone could take a radio station and commit suicide and drive the other side of town or across the country because they,
exactly.
you know what I'm saying? Like, I would hate that being that motherfucker to drive like all the way to California and find out
And
that
then,
was,
and then go back, head
yeah, it's
back.
like, you fuck, I'm gonna kill somebody.
And one thing I love about our organization, we've captured so much evidence over the last 5 years that we've been doing this. We've captured
Oh,
full body
cool.
apparitions on thermal pictures. We've captured EVPs. We actually have one of our best videos is on our YouTube channel, Fan Detectives, where we put a camera on this door like before Melissa and Rick joined, and what happened was the door flew open by itself, just completely flew open. There was no wind, there was no rain, and I'm still like baffled. I consider it paranormal because it's the old fashioned 1700s timing latch. You physically have
Oh,
to lift up the latch
oh
like
yeah.
this, and for it to fly open by itself with no wind and no rain, no one's on the property. Can't explain it. It's paranormal to me.
No, seriously. And I always think about like how could like a ghost or an apparition actually
Move.
physically move stuff. And it brings me back to the movie Ghost. Remember like
Oh yes, but
you
Patrick
know that
Swayze to me more.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and
Remember
think
he goes to
about
the train station and he meets
yes,
another ghost that like can like just easily move stuff and he's just like I
he's
can't do
like
any of that
bullshit.
stuff.
You ain't
But
got a
you need to
body.
teach me, you
It's
know?
like this ghost is like bullshit. You ain't got a body now. It's all up here now. And he tells
No, it
him,
is. It's like,
and he,
yeah.
and he has to try to push. He's trying to push the
Place a coin.
or the beer cap. Basically,
Yeah,
he
beer
can't
cap.
do
Yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah.
and eventually, like he ends up learning. He says you got to take all your love and all your hate and all your and put it in the down your stomach, and
Yep, yep, yep,
eventually
yep.
he kicks like a beer can right at
Yep,
him.
yep.
So it's funny. Well, it's so true because the law of energy states that energy cannot be created nor
Yes.
destroyed, but move from one form to another. So if energy can move from different forms, and ghosts can show themselves in the process of ectoplasm, or they can show themselves as
Yes.
like vapor coming across, or if they can show themselves as like sometimes orbs. Now orbs I think are mostly dust particles and bugs and stuff like that, but there are orbs like during our first investigation where we had a security camera going off, and our former team member, who's since left the team in 2021, she captured a photo, and you can see a really defined orb with a face in it, almost like colored orb. And then they have the EMF meter batteries drain. That's a strong correlation when you got layers upon
Yes.
evidence. And I remember some of our investigations with Melissa, and Melissa, like, remember her first investigation at the Summerwind Mansion in 2021. She's like, Josh, I'm picking up a connection to Lincoln. And I'm like, what does Abraham Lincoln have to do with this place? Then I go back and check the history, and I find out that Mary Todd Lincoln was known to shop in Philadelphia, and
Huh.
also basically during that time, she also supposedly was known to visit. That was her great grandfather's house.
Huh.
I don't
What?
know how Melissa knew that. She didn't have no knowledge walking into the place, but she's amazing
Damn,
at what she
just
does.
say that give me chills right there, right? Finding
Yeah.
that out. Oh
And like
man,
every
that's
time she's
so
done
cool.
an investigation, like we never give her any information. She walks in blindly, and that's what makes psychic mediums. Let them kind of tap into the energy. Don't tell them nothing. Let them kind of
No.
feel it out themselves. That's the best method, I think. And psychic mediums can be really good, especially when you have
Well, the
equipment. Right?
military uses, remote viewers to
Oh
try
yeah,
to get an edge on the enemy.
oh yeah,
You know?
absolutely. Like I think it's kind of like remote viewing, it's kind of like moving things with your mind, kind of like telekinesis and different things. I know Major Ed Dames, who was in the army, supposedly had pioneered a lot of the remote viewing research.
Yeah. No, it's amazing too that we think about what that reminds me of the movie Staring at Goats when they kind of first kind of brought it to light. Like
So cool.
that's really funny. Who was in that movie? George Clooney.
Oh yes, I love George Clooney. I remember him. He also played Batman. In I think the fourth movie. It wasn't
Yes.
as good, but it was. I think he played Batman after Val Kilmer did.
Val Kilmer. That's awesome. Was that the Riddler in that
Yes,
one?
Jim Carrey
Yes.
was the Riddler, and I think the fourth
Yes.
movie was who was it? I think it was who else? I think Arnold Schwarzenegger was in it too.
Yes.
The one
Yes.
George Clooney was in.
Yeah. That's so funny. I love Batman movies.
Me too.
Especially the new ones are pretty tight and dark now.
I
That
love like
one's
the ones with Christian Bale, Chris Nolan. I think
yeah.
hands down were awesome because they really built off the story. Of course, the Heath Ledger, passed away right after the second
He
movie.
did the best Joker.
He
Oh
did.
man. He's
Him and
I,
Jack Nicholson are my
I think
favorite
he
too.
did I think he did his homework way too well almost.
Yeah, he was so into the role he ended up dying because of it. I think it's because of drugs and all that
Well,
messed him
it
up.
reminded me a lot of the guy who played Alex in Clockwork Orange.
Yes,
He played his role way too too good, where he went psychologically crazy afterwards, where he didn't go to acting for
absolutely.
a while. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
But yeah, it's so crazy how uh,
you get
actors can
so
get themselves so involved into their
work.
character. You know what
Yes,
I'm saying?
they
It's
end up becoming the character and it ends
yes,
up messing them up psychologically.
yeah. Maybe I should become an actor. No, this is cool. So we're rounding up to about an hour here. And dude, I'd love to have you back on my show and maybe have some of your maybe Melissa back in here
Definitely,
maybe
we'll do
with
it
you
together.
or
And what I would like to do before we wrap up, let's go ahead and plug in the websites if that's
yeah, please
okay.
do. I was gonna just say that.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I hear we have different websites in our brand. So if you want to reach Holly Faust, our the head of our cult symbols, our spiritual beliefs department, Ryan Buell's former top assistant, her website is Holly Holly Faust FAUST.com. Holly Holly FAUST.com. Melissa, obviously she's a part of the team, but she also has her own website, which is psychicmediumautumn.com. If you want a reading done, or if you want a question about a loved one or anything about mediumship, Melissa's website, psychicmediumautumn.com. If you want to reach Rick Warner, you have a UFO question or a report that you want to submit to Mr. Warner's UFO organization. He originally came from MUFON. His website is the number ERC, the number 2, explore.com. That is ERC, the number 2, explore.com. To reach Mark Anthony, the psychic lawyer, psychic explorer, the world renowned, everyone knows Mark. I'll give you his information for the show. He'll be great. It's afterlifefrequency.com, all one word, afterlifefrequency.com. And if you want to reach Dark Matter News with Joshua Stark, I own Dark Matter News, but I don't run it. Dark Matter News is all one word. If you have anything that you want for your podcast posted on there, we can do that for you.
Yes.
It's just all one word, darkmatternews.com. Our news division for fan detectives and also Midnight Frequency and Para X Radio. Dark Matter News is now on Para X Radio with Ron Kollek's new station, so it's syndicated on there. And the main hub of everything is phantomdetectives.org. All one word, phantomdetectives.org. You can find Rick's website and Melissa's website and all of our websites on that website as well.
That is fucking dope. Josh, this is an amazing time. I had such a great time soaking up all that knowledge and history, and I just love your enthusiasm in this
Thank
field,
you.
and this you have so much passion as much as I do. So I think we have a
We hit it
lot
off
in common
good.
in that way. So no, I'm very excited to have you back on my show, and
Absolutely.
yeah, I think again, I bet you have shit more stories than that.
Oh, that's just like not even
That was
like
just tip of the iceberg.
yes. We'll go without more rabbit holes next time, and maybe next time we could bring me and Melissa on, and
Yes, that'd be great.
that we could maybe do it together like sometime next year. We'll figure out a plan and a date and all that stuff.
Well, I'll send you some days. But yes, that'd be really cool, man. Hey,
Thank you.
can you stay with me for 2 more minutes?
Sure.